All right, everyone. Welcome to the Honeycuts. I am R. Jacob Honeybrook, and we have an accomplished filmmaker here on the show today. He is working on his latest project, The Beasts We Carry. He is Rishi Gandhi. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Roy. I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Glad to hear it. So, before we get into your new projects, I kind of want to get some background on you and hear about your history in filmmaking, some different things you've worked on. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, yeah, I graduated college during the 2000. It was like during the 2008 financial crisis, basically, but like I graduated in 2009 and it was still horrible. And I thought, yeah, why not? I always wanted to work in film. Let me try to work in film, like the most unstable industry possible. I got my first job as an intern at a production company in Manhattan in New York. Um, One of my first production jobs was PAing on a trauma film. If you've ever seen trauma films like The Toxic Avenger and that sort of stuff, I worked on a film called Mr. Bricks.
Hmm.
Um, and I was literally shoveling shit in a basement somewhere in Long Island City. And
Very trauma.
yeah, and then not even a full year later, I was working as an extra on The Dark Knight Rises. So I went from like as indie as you could get to like like the highest
Wow.
level. And that was as an extra, so it was a different job. And
Hmm.
soon enough after that, I started actually working in camera and like eventually was a DP for a bit, but then I got into editing, which kind of became my main job for like nearly 15 years. During the pandemic, um, uh, I I got some really great mentors in the world of like film color. So like I'm a colorist now. But throughout all that time, like while I was working and doing these different jobs, and like doing other like smaller jobs like PAing or or other types of production jobs, I basically was always making my own things. Um, and I did a lot of documentary, a lot of short form documentary, and then in 2019 I did my first horror short, like narrative short, Mater Mortis, which went to a bunch of festivals, won a couple of awards here and there. It kind of is what it is, uh, and now I'm working on this new project it feels like I've been working on it forever. I've been working on this since I want to say like early 2024.
Okay.
And my crowdfunding campaign for this short that's happening right now, The Beast We Carry, is like it's just launched and um, probably by the time this is posted, we'll break the 30% mark of our funding. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. Hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So did you go to school for filmmaking? Is it something you always wanted to do, or did you go for like a different major and find your way into it?
In college, I was a poli sci major, and then for graduate school, I got a media studies master's degree. And while they had like a production component, I wouldn't really call it film school personally. Although
Okay.
the way that degree was structured, I structured it the best I could like a film school without it being a film school. But it also turned out a lot of the stuff I learned I couldn't really apply to actual industry stuff. So it's almost like everything I learned, I kind of had to relearn.
Mm.
Um, there's like how they teach you stuff in school versus what the actual reality is. Um, so I kind of had to relearn in the real world, and I feel like every job I do, I am constantly learning and relearning how to do things. Especially because I always meet people that really know their shit, and I'm always like trying to make my game better. And yeah, it's one of those things I think that keeps me in film is that I keep meeting people that are extremely good at what they do, and I learn like how to do things much, much better. Um,
Right on. You can
yeah,
always keep learning.
yeah,
S- So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your new project, The Beast We Carry? What's it about? Give us
yeah.
all the good details.
Okay, so The Beast We Carry follows a young South Asian boy in a pre-9/11 New York. His name is Raju. Raju has this supernatural ability to see the inner selves of other people manifested as these kind of creatures only he can see and interact with. So, think sort of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where people have stands that only they can see. And in this case, only Raju can see these inner selves. And in a way, it makes him kind of like a human lie detector in that he can infer how people are feeling or what they're thinking based on how the inner selves are expressing themselves around people. Um, and he has his own inner self, a gentle mime that sort of acts like a friend and protector to him. And is also kind of like a sounding board for him. And basically 9/11 happens. And the inner selves around town become more monstrous as they're infected by the fear, the paranoia, um, and the hate like surrounding like 9/11. And eventually Raju and the mime find themselves trapped in their high school with the inner beasts out for their blood.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you actually grew up in New York during 9/11 and all that
Yep.
happened, correct? So why do,
Yep.
so why don't you tell us about your experience? What was it like before 9/11? How did that change after it? Because it sounds like a, how do I say it? Like a biographical work almost.
Yeah, I
Autobiographical
mean,
work.
it's yeah, I mean, granted, I don't have supernatural powers, but as a child, I remember very distinctly when 9/11 happened. A lot of people talked about, New Yorkers coming together and helping each other, and while certainly that was true for some people, that wasn't really universally the case. I experienced like it's like I experienced two New Yorks, right? There's the one you saw on TV. There's the one I experienced where, immediately in the aftermath, like my mother and I were getting these horrible notes put on our door by like neighbors, like anonymously posting really racist shit on our doors. The Islamophobia on television, on like news channels like Fox News, like even like MSNBC and stuff, just like the Islamophobia was just everywhere. And, even though I'm not Muslim, I was affected by it. Like the way my mother was judged, she was affected by it, right? And it also, just daily interactions at school, daily interactions like in the town I was living in, uh, became very fraught. I stopped feeling like I was a kid. I was no longer treated like a kid, right? It was at any point I could be a threat. I was eyed up differently. I go to airports, rest of my life, I've never gone through an airport without getting felt up. So, um, and I don't even have it the worst, right? Like
Hmm.
I know a lot of people that have had far, far, far worse than me. But it's my experience of New York in the aftermath of 9/11 was one of extreme and deep paranoia. And like I was literally, because I studied US history. I was like, yo, are we gonna get interned like the Japanese in World War II? Like what's about to
Sure.
happen? And obviously with current what's currently happening in our country with ICE raids and people being detained or deported regardless of whether they are citizens or not, I don't know, this all feels very, very relevant to me right now. Granted, I started writing this before before Trump number two, but this is where we're at now.
Right. And it's a powerful story, man. You don't often hear that perspective when talking about 9/11. You often hear, like you were saying, what we saw on TV, everyone coming together and everything like that. You never really hear about the other side of it.
Yeah,
So you talk about using horror as holding a mirror up to society. And I think that's one of the coolest aspects of horror, that it can do that. One of my favorite examples, one of my inspirations, Rod Serling with The Twilight Zone, I think was great at that. Just
yeah.
taking the fears and the horrors that are in society and putting them out there on the screen. So what's your take on that, as using horror to reflect what's going on in our culture? If I can speak, jeez.
No, that's a phenomenal question. I mean, I feel storytelling at large can be done can be used for that. Like horror just happens to be kind of like this one genre that's particularly malleable because we're taking the things that very primarily affect us. Like we are, whether it's like fear, whether it's like I don't know, like a lot like horror is just a genre that is rife with many primal raw emotions. And we can feel those at any point of our lives. Like in the case of me, like I'm drawing from things I felt as a kid that felt like I was living through a horror movie that no one had yet made. Um, and I think I think not just horror, but all art, all storytelling can be used to reflect things that we are going through or have gone through, or to reflect perspectives that no one else has seen yet.
Hmm.
And I think that's to the credit of just like the power of like storytelling, where it can make us pause and reconsider our own perspective on something, especially if we haven't personally experienced something, right?
Sure.
Um, I'm trying to think of something I actually watched fairly recently that probably made me feel that way. Oh, you know what? Like Nope was actually pretty good at that. So was Us.
Mm.
Um, I feel like I don't know if you've seen Nope or Us, but like for Nope, I thought there was a really cool element to that film, like talking about like the role of like black people in like Hollywood specifically, and how like it had a lot of commentary that was rife about like them being overlooked, and just like despite being even like generationally within Hollywood, they're still like not treated um
Hmm.
the same, like these like stunt horse like people, for example.
Okay.
And granted, that's a movie ultimately about a UFO that's coming and eating people, right?
Right.
But it also showed like the dynamic of like someone that's like an Asian immigrant that's trying to like aspire to being an acceptable part of society and accepting like all the moneyed side of things, but in a way ends up getting corrupted by all of it, right?
Hmm.
Instead of like actually confronting and like overcoming his own trauma of like a chimpanzee like killing everyone on a set. Um, I don't know if that answered your question at all, but
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, depicting monsters in people is very fascinating to me because I feel like just about everyone has some kind of dark side to them or some kind of secret they don't want to get out. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned Del Toro, Eggers as inspirations. How do you hope to portray these monsters inside people in your movie?
That's a great question. So I would say I would go with kind of my major visual and production inspirations for this film, which are very specifically cited as the first two Nosferatus, like the
Mm,
original Murnau Nosferatu, the Herzog Nosferatu, Alien, and the Babadook. Why these specifically? Because all of these were done in camera. Um, and my goal is to have really great actors portray the inner selves in special effects makeup and like wardrobe, and also to use production design to bring this to life. And I'm not going the route of in camera because I dislike VFX or anything. I actually really love VFX. I have a lot of respect for it, but I also understand the needs of VFX for it to be good, for it to be accomplished at a high level. You need certain types of planning. And at least for me, I felt I could sufficiently plan by doing things in camera and doing as much in pre-production and during production as possible to actually keep our post pipeline as simple as possible. Also, I just think it'll look wicked fucking cool. Like, do you remember the Coppola Dracula movie?
yeah, from the
Yeah,
70s, right?
no, that's from that's like
Oh,
1990.
is it?
Yeah, the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, like they did everything in camera on that, and it
Okay.
looks amazing. Like, yeah, that means they had to work hard to do the special effects, and there's certain things that are harder doing it like in camera, but the results really speak for themselves, and I'm going for that very specific feel.
Okay.
Um, and uh, you know, and it's not coming from a place of disliking VFX or anything.
Mhm.
It's just me trying to simplify things where I can, and
Right.
also just committing to a way of doing something that I think will really empower my actors, and also just it'll give a different element to the performances if everyone's like actually being the thing in the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the one with Gary Oldman, right? The one you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
that one.
see, I saved it.
It's all good, bro. Um, but yeah, man, like uh yeah, just definitely like where my head's at with this is doing as much in camera as possible. And I've also been doing a lot of look development with my DP and my colorist for
Mhm.
this too. So, and I'm doing a lot of planning with production design. So we do everything in this way. So it looks fucking awesome when everybody sees it.
Now, you brought up colorist a couple times. Can you tell
Yeah.
us more what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in traditional filmmaking, where you're shooting to film stock, usually there's a stage when you're going to develop the negative where once it's getting printed, there's there's usually someone traditionally called a color timer who's dealing with like timing of like the chemicals and all the other stuff to like imbue like a look in the developed like print at the end of it. That's the very short version of it. Basically, what a colorist does is like you do that, but like digitally.
Hmm. Okay.
That's the short version of it. So whenever a lot of people look up film colorists online, they're thinking, oh, they're the person that just does the whole look for the film. Well, you could certainly do that. The way I like to work is we take time in pre-production to develop what's essentially like a digital film stock, what people would probably call filters,
Okay.
or like when you're shooting to your phone camera. But we're basically creating something like a digital film stock, so we know kind of the look we're kind of going for um, before we're on set. And then once we're
Mhm.
in post-production, instead of creating a whole look in post-production, we've already captured it in camera, and all we have to do is dial it in and sweeten it up in post. And that's basically what a colorist does, if any of that made sense.
It does.
Yeah. And that's something I've been doing as my day job for a while. And I have a lot of friends in the color world. And yeah, like I feel this movie visually is gonna be is gonna be like over spec to be like to just look fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do love the concept art that you guys have in the press release. It's very sketchy, very shadowy. Um, I mean, how do you see that translating on screen? Is that in camera and colorist stuff? Is there anything else you're thinking
Um,
of?
I, I literally think it's going to come down to our performers. It's going to come down to our special effects makeup team. It's going to come down to our cinematographer, and his team. Like, it's going to come down to our lighting. It's going to come down to our production design. How does the surrounding sets look? If you want something to look awesome, it's going to be just as much everything in camera as everything you did in pre-production and post-production, right?
Hmm.
So, the way I'm trying to address it, like, yeah, it's let's do everything we can to like make it look as good as we can in front of the camera. I mean, that's also why we're, you know, that's why like our soup to nuts stretch goal is 60K, because that's why our production goal is 45K, because these things aren't cheap. And when you want something to look awesome and be amazing, you want to work with people that are top of their game, top of their craft. These are things AI cannot replace, right? These are
Hmm.
things that people really spend time understanding in a way that a machine can never replace you. Um, and these are things that we are at risk of losing if we go down this route of like thinking that machines can replace these people. Uh, and my goal with this short is like I want to make a cool looking short, and I want to remind people, dude, like we can make cool looking fucking horror. We just need to remember like this is an art form that takes a community to make,
Hmm.
right? It
For
takes a
sure.
team of people. It's like, listen, man, I could go into an AI today, type in something to get the image I want, and it's going to look like ass. It's a better AI? Reaching out to my concept artist, David Romero, and being like, yo, David, man, I'm thinking like, what if we have a vampire biker as like one of the inner selves, like when they become an inner beast, like he's like a vampire biker. Like, what do you think about that? And he's like, yeah, man, yeah, I'm getting some ideas. He'll throw out a couple ideas, and then we just like collaborate on that. That's way better AI than that bullshit. Like you can do and type stuff into like, forget about that. Like we already have it. It's called people, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and I mean, dude, like it's like yeah, I'm asking for a good chunk of change, but I aim to deliver something awesome because awesome people are already working on this project.
For sure. Isn't it crazy that as soon as we have access to AI, the first thing we do is start using it to replace the cool stuff we do, like art and writing and music?
I mean, listen, man, like the people at the top are always like they have no artistic bone, no storytelling bone in their body. All they're doing is counting a number going up that has nothing to do with humanity. They did
Hmm.
that to steel workers, they did that to auto workers, they've done that to air traffic controllers, all sorts of people that work and keep the society together. You think a computer's going to do all that shit? Get the fuck out of here, okay? Like, it can maybe help them. It can maybe make the technical burden a little easier. But fact of the matter is, like, I don't know any machine on the planet that can replace my DP.
Right.
I don't know any like my DP can look at something and tell you exactly the amount of stops he thinks something is going to need to be set at without needing to even measure it. Because you know what, man, that's hard-won experience, that's hard-won knowledge. It's like Dune, dude. Like in Dune, they don't have robots and computers and shit. They got rid of that shit and instead decided to make people better. And all
Hmm.
I'm saying is like people do shit better and we do horror better than machines.
For
And
sure.
and not for nothing. I know this has turned into an anti-AI rant,
Go for
but
it.
you know, this short is gonna this short is coming from a deeply personal place for me. Both from, yeah, like it's fictional, it does draw from like an experience, it does come from a personal place, but it is also very much about people and it's about humanity and it's the type of art that it takes your hands to make. And you know, if people want to see that, it's like, yeah, dude, like back this project. Let's make something cool together. Like if you are putting your money into this project, you're contributing to something you have never seen before
Mm.
and that no machine can make.
Now, I want to keep on the style just for one more
Absolutely.
question
Let's
for
go
you, because
for it.
it was really captivating for me. I'll have to ask Mar to throw some pictures on the screen during this part because it's really great concept art. Now, how much of that did you like you come up with, and did you work with an artist on that? Like, how much
Yeah.
say did you have in that? I guess is what I'm asking.
David Romero and I collaborated on the concept art. I broadly would say, hey, these are the things I'm looking to kind of hit. He'd come up with something, we'd go back and forth on the drafts. And here's the thing, man, like we can always talk about directors coming up with everything and everything being like the vision and keeping to the vision. But the
Hmm.
truth is, all the best stuff you see, whether it's Sinners, whether it's the new Final Destination, which if you haven't seen, fucking watch that movie. It's fucking great. Like, you know, all of this stuff, like, yes, my name's on the movie as the director, but all of this stuff comes out from collaboration.
Hmm.
So I can't draw, but I have an idea of what I want. I will
Yeah.
talk to my concept artist, David Romero, which everyone should check out because he's amazing. And, you know, we will collaborate and come up with something and go back and forth. It's a conversation. So,
Hmm.
do I have a say in it? Of course. Does David have a say in it? Of course. Like, we both come together with our ideas and we meet somewhere and we always find a better path. Like, that's like the third path that neither of us considered. And that's like the difference between getting what you want versus like elevating what you want,
Yeah.
right? So it's like that's the power of collaboration and that's the power of like real filmmaking with people coming from people.
Hmm. And that's what part of what's so cool about doing this independent filmmaking or writing. Like I know when I'm putting my work out trying to find a book cover artist, sometimes I'll sketch my book cover and I'll send it and I'll be like, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for. Do you think you can work with this?" And they'll be like, "Yes, or maybe we can do this a little bit different." And I love that just collaboration side of it
Oh
and
yeah,
just
dude. Like I don't know if you're into team sports, man, but it's
mm,
like this is the biggest team sport there is in the
mm,
arts. And you know, like everyone that's on a team sport, you know, like when you got teammates that they're looking out for you while you know whether you got the ball or you don't got the ball, right?
sure.
And everyone is there to like to look out for each other and make the thing better.
Mhm.
People don't go on projects typically because they want it to be worse. They're going on the project because they know they can make it better. And I think like embracing that aspect of filmmaking is what makes it better for everybody.
Sure. So you say that this film, you brought up the Babadook. You also mentioned it will be reminiscent of Sixth Sense, kind of drawn on those from a little bit of inspiration. How do you see the beast we carry fitting into that psychological type of horror?
Um, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked it. So, the main because this is a short, right?
Mhm.
It's going to be very focused on Raju's perspective. So in a way, because it's focused on Raju's perspective, we as the audience are very keyed in to what he's going through and what he's feeling, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, when things are not going well, like we're gonna feel what he's feeling. We're gonna feel that uncertainty. We're not gonna know what's about to happen, right? Because we're so keyed into this kid's psychology to a level where oftentimes we're not sure whether we're seeing things or not, right? Um, and and the thing is like, yeah, it's gonna play with your head a bit. And like the Sixth Sense and like the Babadook, we're dealing with these characters that are going through something absolutely insane that they don't really have anyone else they can talk to, right? Um, and I feel that's kind of where it draws itself from is on this isolation that, you know, that people end up feeling.
I have to say, psychological horror is probably my favorite subgenre of it because, ghosts can be scary and slashers can be scary, but there's something about that psychological element that you can make it more personal and more real, and question what is going on. Because I always say the scariest thing in the world is what's going on in your head
Yeah,
more
yeah.
than anything else outside of it. So,
Yeah, 100%, man. Like you can come up with stuff that's that really like spin like makes you spiral all by yourself like and all it takes is a little push and it sends you down that path and in a way like this is actually what this film is about is that one kid just stuck with himself because no one is letting him be a part of that community anymore, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
So you brought up David Romero. I
Yep.
also see that you're working with Alex Torres and Mike Maglinick. Did I get that
Mike
right?
McGillnick is a
There we go.
phenomenal director of photography, and we have collaborated before. I've been his colorist in the past. So this will be my first time in the director's chair with him as my director of photography. David Romero, who I've mentioned, is the phenomenal concept artist, and Alex Torres has been our producer for the pre-production side of things so far.
Nice. Sounds like you have a solid team there.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely great. We've been adding other people in the background to the project, and
Mhm.
we're also building the team up as the Kickstarter is currently happening.
I gotta say, I give props to you and anyone who makes a film because there's just so much that goes into it and so many people and so many things you have to juggle. Like it's wild. Like I just write books and I just need to worry about me, my cover artist and my editor, and I'm like, man, this is a lot. So I couldn't imagine having a team of people and trying to coordinate schedules and shoots and everything.
I mean, that's why you want to find your core team of people, and you want to like you want to get a budget, you want to make sure everything lines up so that the work can get done because it is
Hmm.
too much to do as a solo person. And oftentimes, at least in independent film, at least for me in my experience, I've had to do a lot of the heavy lifting super early on before I can build a team. And yeah, no, it's absolutely a lot of work, but um, I don't know, like I think right now, because of the state of the industry, of the film industry in the United States, it's just really hard in general to get funded for anything and to make anything. Because we really don't have like a grant structure for the arts in this country.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, if you want to make something, you really need to want to make it. And I really want to make this goddamn movie. I want to make this short. I want to make a feature out of this short. Because I think, once we can get to a feature and people see this, they're gonna have seen something they've never seen before.
Hmm. Yeah, and like you said, you're creating this short as kind of a proof of concept. What do you want to see this be as a feature, and what are kind of the steps you would take to get there from this being a short to, full length production?
That's an excellent question. I think I think this can go one of two ways, right? Um, Feasibly, if the short is you know, like an unmitigated like success in the Kickstarter phase, right? Like it does really well and we get a lot of outside interest to just develop it straight into a feature, like that could be a conversion to a feature directly.
Mhm.
The more likely scenario is we get funding for the short. We do the short, we do a festival cycle, all the while still developing the feature on our own, and raising funds for a feature separately because we also will have this proof of concept to demonstrate both our team's ability to work together, which I think is really important, um, as well as, having a really damn good short under our belts, right? Um, and just kind of using that as a proof of concept, I think is really useful. And there's plenty of examples of that in the real world. I think one of the best examples, in my opinion, is Whiplash. They made a really good short of that, and then they got a feature out of it, right? Um, and I think uh, I think just being able to like show and demonstrate whether it's going to festivals or even if we decide to forego festivals altogether and just build a really massive online presence around the short, um, getting that sort of attention and showing the viability of it is more likely to help us get to a place where we can get more investors on board to actually do a really solid feature.
Yeah.
Um, and who knows, man? Like, I can't predict the future. Um, if the people backing this Kickstarter, you know, are down to be on that journey with us for a feature and they want they want a more direct say in a feature, like fuck it. Like maybe there's a place down the line where we do a separate crowdfunding campaign just for developing the feature. Um, but yeah, like right now, despite all that, my main focus is like, let's get this short in the bag. Let's make it as good as we can. Let's show people like, hey, like this is what is possible if you embrace people, in film. This is
Hmm.
what is possible if like, we can tell stories that we don't get to see coming out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the coolest aspects is in the independent horror scene is you do get these stories that are unconventional and just wouldn't be made because one reason or the other. So I think it's super important to support the independent scene.
Yeah.
So, what is the most important thing you would want people to take away from the beasts we carry?
Um, I think the most important thing for me is, I don't know, just if they're if they're able to kind of like stop being in their world for a second and consider um kind of what other people are going through, consider a different perspective, even if they disagree with it. I think that's probably the least I could ask for. And barring that, I mostly hope they feel something. I mostly hope they feel the fear of that kid
Hmm.
and they feel, maybe if I did my job really well, they'll feel at least a little brutalized leaving the film.
Yeah.
That's I feel like that's the hope of like every horror director is that someone leaves feeling a little brutalized.
Well, that was one of your taglines, right? You don't want to scare them, you want to scar them.
Yeah, yeah, that is one of the marketing taglines.
Well, all right, man. As we bring it on home here, where can people go to find the Kickstarter, help fund it? Where's that at?
Absolutely. I have a direct link to the Kickstarter you can put into your show notes.
Cool.
Um, and also, you can, if you just type in the beasts we carry at kickstarter.com, it'll take
Mhm.
you there. You can also, keep up to any updates that are happening with the campaign, either like following the campaign on the Kickstarter directly or following me on Instagram, which is Senor Rish. So that's SENOR_RISH at Instagram. And then you can also find me on Blue Sky at rishjg.bssky.social. And I'm also on TikTok at RJG_film.
Right on. I
Yeah.
got one more for you before we go, and
Okay.
I always like to ask this of people who are out here doing this.
Yeah.
in the horror community especially, I see we have tons of creative people who want to be filmmakers, want to be artists, want to be writers. What would you tell somebody who wants to break into filmmaking? Where would they start? What advice would you give to them?
Wow. That's really hard, man. It's because there's no one path to getting to where you want to get to. Um, if you want to be like I guess like be specific about what it is you want to do. Like even if you want to ultimately do something else, it never hurts to do another job first. I think the ability to have humility and to just learn a job, I think is probably one of the most important things. Even if your ambition is to do something else, it's always really good to just be willing to do and try something. And then just be open to people, man, because like film specifically is a very people-oriented business. And it kind of doesn't matter how good you are. What really matters is that other people like you and like working with you. So, if you are good to other people, likelier opportunities will open up for you. I think that's probably the best advice I could give. And if there is a specific craft you want to do and you're not in that craft yet, that's okay, man. Like you can trek your way there. Just be open with the people you work with about what it is you would like to eventually do and ask them for their advice of how to get there.
Right on, man. Rishi, thank you so much for joining us, man. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, thanks a lot for having me on, Roy. I really appreciate it.
You got it.